I knew something was wrong the moment her father, Gerald, slammed his fist on the dinner table hard enough to rattle the silverware. The whole room froze. Gerald's face was crimson, his voice thundering. "All you do is take. You've never given this family anything." For a second, I thought he was talking to someone else. But then Madison, my wife, turned her head toward me, lips curled into a smug little smirk, and nodded. Nodded, as if she'd been waiting for this moment, savoring it. I stared at her, waiting for a laugh, a wink, any sign she was joking. Instead, she coldly lifted her wine glass and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "If you had any pride left, you'd just leave." The world around me blurred. Conversations became a low hum. Her sister Lauren dropped her fork. Her mom, Patricia, suddenly found her plate fascinating. Nobody stood up for me. Nobody said a word. I pushed back my chair. No theatrics. No shouting. Just a quiet nod as I rose and walked out of that house like a ghost leaving a body. That night, as I packed my things into 2 garbage bags, because Madison said I didn't deserve the suitcases, I realized how blind I'd been. I thought the late nights at yoga, the business trips she suddenly started taking, were just her finding herself. I thought I was being a good husband, giving her space, supporting her dreams. What a clown I was. 3 months passed. I didn't hear a word from her. Not a text. Not a call. Silence, like I'd never existed. I stayed on a buddy's couch, took extra shifts, rebuilt what little life I had left, piece by broken piece. Then the call started. Lauren, sobbing, voice raw. Why did the tuition payment stop? Then Madison, voice shrill and furious. I just lost the house. Why didn't you pay the mortgage, you selfish bastard? I didn't even hesitate. I typed one simple message back. Thought I never gave this family anything. Then I put my phone down, poured myself a whiskey, and watched from a distance as their entire golden tower crumbled without me. But that was just the beginning. You see, a man can only get betrayed so many times before he stops playing the fool, before he starts digging. And what I found next, it made every second of heartbreak worth it. 2 weeks after the fallout, I got a message from an old acquaintance, Brian, a guy I hadn't spoken to since college. No greeting, no catching up, just a blurry photo sent to my phone with a single text. Thought you should see this. I stared at the screen. It was Madison, clear as day, sitting at a rooftop bar, laughing way too hard, her hand resting on some guy's thigh. Not just resting, gripping it like she owned it. He wasn't anyone I recognized. Tall, sharp-dressed, smug. The kind of guy who looks like he talks about himself for an hour straight. Part of me wanted to believe it was innocent. Maybe a coworker? Maybe a distant cousin? Maybe. No. I'd been an idiot long enough. I started connecting the dots. The sudden yoga obsession, the late nights at meetings, the mysterious out-of-town conferences. I never saw hotel receipts. I never saw any actual yoga mats either. That night, while rage burned holes through my chest, I went back through her social media. Madison had never been careful. Photos cropped just right. Captions with little inside jokes that weren't meant for me. Geotags at places I had no idea she visited. Then I found it. A photo of a group dinner she posted 2 months ago. She was sitting next to him. The same guy from the rooftop photo. Their chairs way too close. Her body leaning into his, like gravity itself was pulling her toward him. The comments were even worse. Lauren, her sister, had left a trail. You two are fire, fire, fire. Power couple energy. They all knew. Her whole damn family. They knew she was fooling around, and they still sat there that night and watched Gerald tear me apart, watched Madison humiliate me, like I was the intruder in their little fairy tale. I don't remember sleeping that night. I remember sitting in my car, engine off, staring out at the rain, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, feeling the weight of betrayal sink into my bones. She didn't just cheat on me. She made me the villain in her story to justify it. She needed to paint me as the failure, the taker, so she could slide into someone else's arms without guilt. I decided right then, if they wanted a villain, I'd give them one. The next morning, I cashed out the tuition fund, the one I set up for Lauren's kid. Froze the mortgage account. My name was still on the house, after all. Shut down every auto payment that was tied to my name. No warning. No explanation. They wanted me gone? Fine. Let's see how well they fended for themselves. And when the chaos started, the screaming voicemails, the desperate texts, the Facebook rants about betrayal, I just watched. Silent. Calm. Free for the first time in years. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the bombshell that dropped a few days later. It was a Friday. I was grabbing coffee when Brian sent me another message. A video this time. My blood turned to ice when I hit play. Madison, drunk off her ass, at some party, hanging all over that same guy. And then, through the grainy footage, her voice clear as day. I only married him because Daddy said he had money. You think I ever loved that loser? Laughter. Cheers. My stomach twisted. I wanted to throw the phone across the parking lot. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the sky down around me. But instead, I smiled. Because now I knew. I hadn't lost anything. I'd been saved. I waited 3 days before I decided to confront her. 3 days to let the anger cool into something sharper, something controlled. I wasn't going to give Madison the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I pulled up outside the condo she moved into after I left, probably paid for by my money before I shut the valve off. She opened the door wearing yoga pants and a tiny tank top, acting surprised like she wasn't the one who had been blowing up my phone just a week ago screaming about the mortgage. Wow, she said, arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe. Look who finally grew a spine. I stepped past her without asking, without waiting for an invitation. The place was a mess, takeout containers on the table, wine bottles on the counter, dirty laundry draped over the couch. Whatever fantasy she thought she was living, reality was cracking at the seams. She shut the door a little too hard. You gonna say something? Or you just here to breathe heavy like some creep? I turned to her, calm, almost detached. How long, Madison? She shrugged, like I'd asked what time it was. Since before the wedding, she said, picking at her nails. You knew what this was, Tyler. You just didn't want to admit it. I stared at her, waiting for her to flinch, to show even a sliver of guilt. Nothing. You didn't love me? I asked, voice low. She snorted. Love? Grow up. You were a paycheck. A stepping stone. You were supposed to get me out of my parents' house, fund my little dreams, and then fade into the background like a good boy. Each word felt like a punch to the gut, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me bleed. Gerald's little speech, I said slowly, that was planned, wasn't it? You needed a reason to kick me out without looking like the bad guy. She smiled. Actually smiled. Took you long enough. You had your sister cover for you. Your mom. Everyone. Another shrug. Family sticks together. I took a step closer, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. Good. You think this is over? I asked quietly. You think I'm just going to disappear, leave you to play house with whatever clown you're hanging on now? Her jaw tightened. You can't touch me. It's too late. I smiled. You're already falling apart, Madison. I'm just here to watch you crash. I turned and walked out, leaving the door wide open behind me, the sound of her yelling something furious and ugly echoing down the hallway. I didn't look back. Driving home, my hands were steady for the first time in months. I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the man who survived it. And I wasn't finished yet. The minute I got back to my apartment, the weight of it all finally crashed down on me. I locked the door, kicked off my boots, and just stood there in the middle of the room, feeling like a hollowed-out shell. I had spent years building a life with Madison. Sacrifices, long hours, dreams stacked like fragile glass. And she shattered it all like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. I sank down onto the floor, back against the door, breathing hard. Not crying. I refused to give her that. But the grief was a physical thing, heavy and sharp, twisting in my gut. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the disrespect. The cruelty. She hadn't just cheated. She had planned my execution like it was a ******ing board game, moving pieces, smiling while she set me up to fall. Memories slammed into me, her laughing as we decorated the Christmas tree, holding my hand at her grandmother's funeral, whispering promises in the dark after nights tangled together under the covers. All of it fake. A performance. I pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes, trying to push it all away. I wasn't angry at her anymore. I was angry at myself. For being stupid enough to believe. For ignoring the red flags waving right in my face. For loving someone so deeply who only saw me as a resource to drain. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was Lauren again. Another desperate message. Madison's freaking out. Can you please just talk to her? She's losing everything. I stared at the screen for a long time, thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to tell her everything, expose Madison to her own family, let them see the snake they raised. But I didn't. Instead, I texted back 2 words. Not my problem. Then I powered the phone off. I spent the next few days rebuilding myself from the ashes. Little things at first, hitting the gym harder, cooking real meals, throwing myself into work. Anything to feel normal again. Every time I felt the ache, the longing to call her, to demand answers she would only twist into more lies, I reminded myself. She chose this. She chose him. She chose to spit on everything we had. One night, I sat on the balcony with a beer, staring at the city lights, and it hit me, Madison hadn't destroyed me. She freed me. I had been living in a cage so pretty I never noticed the bars. Now, I was out. I could breathe. And slowly, piece by broken piece, I started becoming someone she couldn't touch anymore. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers were ready. I didn't tell Madison. I didn't warn her. I didn't give her the satisfaction of a dramatic showdown she could twist into a sob story for her friends. I had them delivered to her door by courier, middle of the day, when all her neighbors could see her standing there in her slippers, clutching the envelope like it was ticking in her hands. The calls started within minutes. I watched the screen light up again and again, Madison, Madison, Madison. Voicemail after voicemail. At first, her voice was icy, dripping with contempt. "You're a coward," she spat. "You're running away because you can't handle a real woman." By voicemail 6, the tone shifted. Pleading. Begging. "Tyler, please, we can work this out. You don't understand. It wasn't like that." The nerve of her. After everything. After all the lies, the humiliation, the months of treating me like a burden. Now, because her perfect little safety net was gone, she suddenly remembered I existed. I didn't answer. Not once. She even showed up at my apartment one night, banging on the door, screaming loud enough to wake the whole damn building. I didn't open it. I sat on the couch, beer in hand, listening to her cycle through every phase: anger, tears, promises, threats. Eventually, she slid down the door and started sobbing. Loud, ugly sobs. The kind of sound that once would have gutted me. Now it was just noise. An hour later, she was gone. And for the first time, the silence felt like peace. I thought that would be the end of it. File the papers, sign the line, cut the last thread. Move on. But life has a funny way of testing you when you think the storm's over. Because a few days after that, Lauren called me again. Different tone this time. Not frantic. Not apologetic. Just cold, like delivering a news report. "Madison's guy, the one she was seeing behind your back, he got arrested." I blinked. Arrested? For what? She hesitated. Fraud. Embezzlement. They're saying he stole $500,000 from his company. Madison might be involved. They're investigating everyone close to him. The world tilted sideways. I leaned back in the chair, let out a low whistle. "That's tough," I said. "Hope it works out for her." Lauren was quiet for a second. Then, "You really don't care anymore, do you?" I smiled to myself. Not my circus, not my monkeys. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in years. Madison had gambled everything, her marriage, her future, her reputation, on a man who turned out to be even bigger trash than she was. She traded a steady life, a husband who loved her, for a quick thrill and a few cheap dinners. And now, standing in the ruins, she was completely, gloriously alone. Exactly where she deserved to be. A month passed, and the world felt different. Quieter. Cleaner. I wasn't just moving on, I was sprinting away from the wreckage Madison had left behind. Some nights I still woke up sweating, heart hammering, mind dragging me back into old memories, her fake laughter, her crocodile tears, her cold hands reaching for my wallet more often than they ever reached for me. But each time, it got easier to push those thoughts out. Each time, it hurt a little less. One afternoon, as I was finishing a workout at the gym, my buddy Mike slapped a newspaper down on the bench next to me. "You see this yet?" I glanced down. Front page. There she was. Madison, looking haggard and angry, in a grainy photo, shielding her face from reporters as they crowded the courthouse steps. The headline burned into my brain. "Local woman questioned in embezzlement case. Boyfriend arrested." I couldn't help it. I laughed. Right there in the middle of the gym. A deep, guttural laugh that turned heads. All the lies. All the betrayal. All the smug superiority, and here she was, cornered like a rat. Mike grinned. "Guess karma's not just a rumor, huh?" I just shook my head, still chuckling, and tossed the paper in the trash. When I got back home, there was a letter wedged into my mailbox. No stamp. Hand-delivered. No return address, but I already knew. Inside was a messy, desperate scrawl of Madison's handwriting. Pages of it. Apologies. Excuses. Claims she never meant for it to happen. That she was scared, confused, manipulated. She even ended it with the kind of line that might have worked on a dumber version of me. "We were supposed to build a life together, Tyler. Please, save me. I read it once. Slowly. Let every word sink in. Then I tore it in half, tossed it in the garbage, and poured myself a whiskey. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. Sorry the life raft she thought she could leap onto was full of holes. The truth was, Madison didn't miss me. She missed what I gave her. The money. The stability. The blind devotion. The endless second chances. That version of me was dead and buried now. And she was the one who killed him. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the late afternoon sun warm my face, and realized something simple but powerful. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need anything from her at all. She had already lost, and I had already won. Weeks rolled by. Life settled into a rhythm I hadn't felt in years, honest, quiet, unshackled. I got promoted at work. I started sleeping through the night again. I even caught myself smiling at nothing sometimes, feeling something I hadn't tasted in too long. Peace. One Friday night, after a long day, I decided to stop by a local bar. Nothing fancy, just a dimly lit place with a jukebox and decent beer. I grabbed a stool, ordered a drink, and for once, I wasn't checking the door every 5 minutes, waiting for Madison to waltz in late with a new excuse dripping from her lips. I was halfway through my second beer when I heard a familiar voice behind me. High-pitched, fake sweet. Tyler. I stiffened, set my glass down slowly, and turned. There she was. Madison. But not the Madison I remembered. This Madison was smaller somehow. Makeup caked too heavy on tired skin. Hair frizzy. Clothes that looked like they hadn't been chosen, just thrown on in a panic. She gave me a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. Can we talk? I stared at her, feeling absolutely nothing. No rage. No sadness. No desire. She was a ghost now. A shadow of a life I had escaped. I don't think there's anything left to say, I said calmly. She stepped closer, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. I made mistakes. I know that. But we had something real once, didn't we? We could again. I just need someone right now. There it was. The real Madison. She didn't miss me, she missed having a lifeboat. I stood up, dropped a few bills on the bar, and looked her dead in the eye. You need someone, I said. I needed someone too. Once. You weren't there. Her face twisted, the fake vulnerability vanishing in an instant, replaced by a sneer. You'll never find anyone better than me, she hissed under her breath. I smiled. A real smile. Sharp and clean. I already did, I said, turning away without a second glance. I walked out into the night, the cold air hitting my face like freedom. Behind me, the door swung shut, cutting off everything she used to mean. And I realized then, fully, deeply. Some people aren't meant to be saved. They're meant to be left behind. The divorce finalized a month later. No court battles, no dragged-out drama. Madison didn't have the strength anymore. She signed the papers without even trying to fight. When the final email came through from my lawyer, confirming it was done, I sat there staring at the screen for a long time. It didn't feel like losing something. It felt like shedding a skin that had been suffocating me. I didn't throw a party. I didn't post about it. I just lived. I moved into a new apartment, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I furnished it slowly, piece by piece, choosing everything myself for the first time in years. No compromise. No fake smiles pretending to agree while being judged for every choice. One night, standing in my kitchen cooking dinner, music playing low in the background, I realized I was humming. Just humming. No weight on my chest. No tightness in my throat. Just breathing, living, moving forward. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. The woman who never existed outside the fantasy I built around her. Madison was never a partner. She was a parasite. And now she was someone else's problem, or maybe just her own. I ran into Lauren one last time, months later, at a grocery store. She looked different too, worn down. She tried to smile, offered a weak, awkward wave. I nodded back, nothing more. There were no words left to exchange. No bridges to rebuild. As I walked away, I thought about everything Madison's father screamed at me that night. All you do is take. You've never given this family anything. I smiled to myself. Because the truth was, I had given them everything they needed. The chance to show me who they really were. And when I walked away, quietly, without a fight, without a scene, they lost the best damn thing they ever had. 3 months after that, Madison lost the house. 6 months after that, she filed for bankruptcy. Every now and then, I get a text from an unknown number. Short little messages. Miss you. Can we talk? Remember what we had? I never answer. Madison made her choices. And me? I made mine too. I chose peace over chaos. Self-respect over betrayal. Freedom over a life lived under someone else's thumb. If I could say one thing to any man standing where I once stood, crushed and blindsided, it would be this. Believe who they show you they are. The first time. And when the time comes to walk away, do it without mercy, without second-guessing. Because you're not losing a damn thing. You're escaping. And escape is the beginning of everything. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new place, a cold drink in my hand, the sunset bleeding fire across the sky. No noise. No chaos. No screaming matches. Just the steady hum of a life rebuilt from scorched earth. I wasn't the same man who had stumbled out of Gerald's house that night with 2 garbage bags and a broken heart. That man was dead. In his place stood someone tougher, smarter, sharper. The scars Madison left behind? They didn't hurt anymore. They reminded me never to settle for half-love, never to be a background character in someone else's story, never to pour my soul into a bottomless pit. Sometimes people have to burn you to the ground just to show you you're made of steel. The phone buzzed on the table beside me. Another unknown number. Another desperate reach from the past. I didn't even bother looking at it. I raised my glass in a silent toast to freedom, to survival, to the brutal beauty of starting over, and let the night swallow the past whole. Madison was just a chapter now. A short one. Badly written. Barely worth remembering. And me? I was already halfway through writing a brand new story. One where the hero finally saves himself. And this time, nobody was ever going to take that away.